You're watching CW Montana. This is the MTN 9 o'clock news.
And good evening. Thanks for joining us on this Thursday. I'm Andrea Lutz. Ahead tonight, it's basketball tournament time in Montana, and it's happening across our state. We'll have complete coverage just ahead. Plus, a battle over logging in an area of Gallatin County has drawn a line between the state and neighbors, and now a judge has weighed in. We'll have the details on that ahead. And a warning that's hitting too close for comfort for many Missoulians today. An avalanche warning at the very same day a deadly avalanche struck the Rattlesnake 5 years ago. But first, we have information on an avalanche that struck the Quake Lake area 40 miles south of Ennis. The slide happened early this morning on Highway 287 at mile marker 4. Traffic is now moving again on that highway, but the early morning avalanche covered all lanes of traffic. It took road crews a couple of hours to get one lane back open in each direction. Luckily, there were no injuries. The city of Missoula put under an urban avalanche warning today, 5 years after that deadly 2014 avalanche at Mount Jumbo. Jill Valley joins us now. And Jill, you covered that avalanche 5 years ago. So what do you remember about that day?
I tell you, that was a very, very surreal moment. When we first heard that there was an avalanche on the scanner and they said the address, it was very shocking because that was in the middle of a residential neighborhood, and we knew that, the situation was definitely dire. And when we got there, it was a horrible blizzard, but you can see this house just crushed by the snowslide that came down, and we knew 3 people were trapped. So the situation was not frantic. There was a good organization in there to dig out these people, but what was shocking was the fact that the neighborhood just suddenly became filled with people running in with their own shovels and anything they could use to dig in an effort to find those 3 people who were missing. And I think at the end of the day, it was still mind-boggling that something like that could happen, although as we take a look at the topography of Mount Jumbo, I guess in a way it's surprising that it hadn't happened before.
And Jill, you were up there today, in fact, and ironically now there's this urban avalanche warning on this exact same day. Tell us about that and what is the latest?
Well, they called that about 11 o'clock this morning. They actually had a small slide on Mount Jumbo. It was actually triggered by an elk, because that's elk habitat, which shows that just about anything is going to trigger these slides up there. This particular slide was 75 feet wide, 3 feet deep, and 700 feet long. So they know conditions up there are ripe for avalanches. Now, what they have done is close down Mount Jumbo. Part of it's closed anyway in the winter because there are the elk that are up there doing their wintering stuff, but they have shut down the whole thing. They went up there and saw that the snowpack was just not stable. They also were aware of this early on because the weather pattern that we saw back in 2014, very similar to the weather situation that we saw earlier this week with all that snow and all that wind. They have learned a lot from that previous avalanche. There are clear signs that say that mountain is closed. They will be patrolling the area and keeping people away. The city even said that this is going to take a community to make sure that people get out of this alive. They're also telling people if you have a backyard that's up against Mount Jumbo and it's a little steep, to stay out of the backyard. Even the smaller ones on the base could trigger a larger avalanche up above.
Wow, very interesting. 5 years ago, you know, we watched the community of Missoula really step up. So I'm just kind of curious what's changed, you know, in that time frame. What do they know better now about urban avalanches?
Well, what's interesting is this is the first ever urban avalanche warning, and that was a phrase that nobody even knew before 2014, and now it's common and we all know what it means. It's an in-town avalanche that can hurt people. I know the fire and search and rescue folks have done some specialized training on what to do if they need to rescue somebody in an urban avalanche. There are a lot of different things to consider from a backcountry slide. I mean, you're talking about power lines and gas lines and all the debris, so they're specially trained for that. I think now that they are very vigilant and very aware that this is a possibility with the 2 mountains that we have right there in the middle of Missoula, that they do have to watch the weather and they do have to be up there measuring the snowpack. Jumbo is right next to Mount Sentinel. It's a little bit steeper, and that's generally where you're going to see problems. So this will be the new normal. We'll probably have more of these in the future as weather conditions warrant, because it can be pretty harsh up there and they have to be extra careful.
We're learning so much about it, and I just can't believe it's 5 years to the day. So Jill, thank you so much. Jill Valley reporting for us from Missoula. And we are deep in the basketball season here in Montana, and that means it is tournament time. Tonight, our team of MTN sports reporters has a breakdown of games as teams try to capture a coveted championship.
Hello everyone from the State Seed Girls Basketball Tournament in Great Falls. Day number 1, 4 first-round games where the storylines were the lopsided games. Really no favorites coming into this tournament, but so far Roy Winifred, Scobie, and Savage all advancing with ease. Can defending champ Box Elder do the same? MontanaSports.com, your destination for those results. That'll wrap it up from here at State Seed Girls. Let's head over to the Eastern AA Divisional.
We're in the second year of AA Divisionals, the Eastern event here at CMR. 6 games today, 4 spots up for grabs at the state tournament in both the boys and girls bracket. The number 1 seed, Great Falls High on the boys' side, Billings West on the girls' side. Well, they await to see who their semifinal opponent is on Friday, but we'll be covering this tournament all weekend long. For now, Tom Wiley, MTN Sports. Let's send it over to Jack Ginsburg in Kalispell.
That's right, Tom. I'm here at Glacier High School in Kalispell for the Western AA Divisional Basketball Tournament. The number 1 seed Hellgate boys looking to make a run and stay on top, while the number 1 Helena girls are looking to do the same. We've already had some crosstown matchups. It's been an exciting day. I'll toss it over to Casey Conlon in Billings.
Thanks, Jack. The Southern B, always one of the best tournaments of the year here in Billings. The big story on the boys' court, Big Timber and Colstrip's boys, the only 2 undefeateds left. If they win today, they meet in tomorrow's semifinals. We'll have full girls highlights as well. 8 total games in the Southern B today. Highlights coming up at 10 across our network of stations. In Billings, Casey Conlon for MTN Sports.
And for the latest stories and scores, head over to MontanaSports.com. An update to a case now involving the death of 2 Browning women. Today, the Cascade County attorney said he is moving ahead with charges against 2 teen boys. The boys are charged with tampering with physical evidence in Blackfeet Tribal Court. They're being charged in connection with the deaths of Amy Sue Whitegrass and Lindsay Whiteman, who died in October from a hit-and-run crash and also a shooting. The boys are to be back in court on March 1st. A lawsuit filed by the family of a man shot and killed by Billings police in 2014 is settled. Richard Ramirez was shot during a traffic stop on the Billings South Side. Then the officer was justified in that shooting. A year later, the Ramirez family filed a suit against the city of Billings. The case was scheduled for a trial, but a financial settlement was reached. The family said that they felt it was time for closure. A Gallatin County judge gives a big thumbs down to a lawsuit on a logging project known as the Limestone West logging proposal. MTN's Medeiros Babb tells us what the ruling might mean and what's next.
Limestone West is an area south of Bozeman in between Mount Ellis and Triple Tree Trail. The Department of Natural Resources wants to log the project because they say there is a pine beetle infestation in the area. The Save Our Gallatin Front tried to delay the auction, but the judge denied the motion. Member William Webb says when he heard the news, he was disappointed.
I think we made a good case that the way the conservation license is set up needs to be addressed, and postponing the auction until that's resolved, to me, made the most sense as a citizen.
Webb is talking about the conservation license, a license that under Montana state law allows citizens to outbid timber companies in order to conserve the land. The license has only been used twice since it became state law and is in jeopardy of getting removed altogether at this year's state legislature. The judge's ruling means the logging of the area could become a reality, something Save Our Gallatin Front is not pleased about. Opponents of the sale of around 440 acres say the Limestone West area is the last piece of undisturbed land that connects from Gallatin Valley all the way to Yellowstone National Park. The group's other concern is that it will put major pressure on the wildlife that currently live there. In Bozeman, Medeiros Babb, MTN News.
The auction of the land will be held next Tuesday. If Save Our Gallatin wants to save the land from logging, it will have to come up with around $400,000 to do so. A trio of bills to restrict vaccine requirements went down in defeat in the Montana House. The bills drew universal opposition that would allow people to claim religious or medical exemptions from having their kids vaccinated. Another bill would have prevented the state from enforcing vaccines in foster and daycare. So supporters say it's an issue of freedom. Opposition says you have to keep your children safe.
We've been able to eradicate most childhood diseases. The facts are irrefutable. The safety of our state is at risk right now, considering what's going on in the state of Washington. It's our responsibility to make sure that our children are safe.
The bills failed by pretty wide margins today. Well, some new Highway Patrol troopers will soon be hitting the road. As many as 9 of them graduated from their academy in Helena. The men and women who graduated completed 20 weeks of rigorous training. This is the patrol's 65th class, and the room was filled with family, friends, and loved ones, all in support as the troopers got sworn in. Brennan Plucker was honored with the Michael Haynes Memorial Grant for his exceptional work. Haynes was struck and killed by a drunk driver in March of 2009.
Today is important to me because this is the next step. This is the transition from my time in training to being out on the road and being able to make that impact that I set out to do from the start.
Plucker's initial station will be in his hometown of Bozeman. Still to come on tonight's MTN 9 o'clock news. It may seem bizarre to talk about fires in February. However, could this wet winter help our fire season? We're going to have that answer ahead. And Bob McGuire joins us right after the break to give you your local forecast. You don't want to miss it.